Hey everybody, my name is Brandon from the StockStudents.com, and today I want to talk about Churchill Capital stock, maybe soon to be Lucid Motors, ticker symbol CCIV. What I want to do first is I want to hop into Google and talk about the news surrounding Churchill Capital stock and why I think it's up over 80% in a single week's time. And then I want to go into the earnings report of Churchill Capital, talk a little bit about Churchill Capital as a business, talk a little bit about Lucid Motors, and talk a little bit about what a SPAC actually is. And then I want to go into the trading charts of Churchill Capital and see if there's a level or two to buy Churchill Capital or Lucid Motors if we want to buy Churchill Capital. So now let's get started. So here we are on Google, and here's a 6-month view at Churchill Capital Corp. As you can see here, since the stock really first became public, we've been hovering around this $10 mark. And that's actually super common for shell companies like Churchill Capital. But if we move on to the 5-day look here, we can see that in about 5 days, we were up over 80% in less than 5 days. And, when you see big moves like this, the question is always why? Why did CCIV jump over 80% in about a week? So if we scroll down here, we can see that the real reason why CCIV has been taking off is because of the rumors about a potential merger with this Lucid Motors here. The first thing I want to emphasize here is that the merger with Lucid Motors is only a rumor. There is no confirmation that Lucid is choosing to go public through a CCIV or even through a SPAC in general. However, the reason why we're seeing this incredible climb in CCIV is because investors are hoping to be early to the game and are betting that the merger talks between CCIV and Lucid will come to fruition. Now, I'm not saying that Lucid will not choose CCIV to go public. There's definitely a chance that Lucid will choose CCIV and that the people who made these early bets here will definitely make a lot of good money. However, if you're going to invest in CCIV at the moment, you have to be aware that, Lucid may not choose CCIV. If Lucid does not choose CCIV or waits a long time before announcing, then we could see a quick and massive crash of CCIV stock. This is definitely a speculative play that that could pay off, but you have to be aware that if the merger comes up empty and Lucid does not end up merging with CCIV, then you may be left holding the bag. So now I want to transition to the earnings report here, and I want to talk about more of what Churchill Capital actually is. And most importantly, I want to talk about Lucid Motors, because most of the investors that are investing in this SPAC are hoping to invest in Lucid Motors. So here we are in Churchill Capital Corp's earnings report here, and this is the statement of operations. As you can see here, there's really no revenues here, and that's because Churchill Capital Corp is a shell company or a special purpose acquisition company. Its product, in air quotes, is basically just piling up a bunch of money from investors that helps a private company go into the public markets. So the question is, how much money are investors putting into Churchill Capital? So if we scroll up here on the balance sheet, we can see that this line here is showing you the market securities that are held in a trust account. And this is, step one for a SPAC. What happens in a SPAC is that a bunch of rich people pull together their money, and all that money goes into a blind trust. And that just sits there until the big managers of the SPAC find and acquire a target. And in this case, investors are hoping that the target will be Lucid Motors. So now let's talk a little bit about Lucid Motors and who they are. So if we switch tabs here, this is Lucid Motors' website. And basically, Lucid Motors is an EV company, and it has the legs to compete against Tesla. Currently, it's a private company, so there's no real data that I could find on the sales or cost of operations. Because of that, I don't really have a good way to look at the company's fundamentals to see how they're doing. But I just want to point out here that if we look at Lucid's CEO, which is Mr. Peter Rawlinson here, and it looks like that before he joined Lucid Motors, he was actually vice president of vehicle engineering at Tesla. And this just shows that he is very well versed in the electric vehicle game here, which inspires confidence to me if I wanted to invest in Lucid. So I just want to make the point that, Lucid is under good leadership here. The other point I want to make here is if we look at Lucid's job opening. So if we switch tabs here, we'll take a look at all of these jobs that Lucid Motors has posted. The main point I want to make here is that, this is extremely bullish because it's showing that the company is planning to expand quickly and make big changes in the company quickly. And, maybe this is even signaling that Lucid wants to go public sooner rather than later. So, this is Lucid, which, just to recap, is an EV company that seems to want to grow quickly. But now I want to ask the question, who is Churchill Capital? And, who are the people that are making decisions to invest in Lucid or not? I'll just talk about this part quickly because this part of the analysis is a little boring, but basically Churchill Capital is headed by a Mr. Michael Klein, who was a banker at Citigroup for like 30 years or something. The important part here when you're analyzing SPACs is seeing who the underwriters are. So the underwriters are people who are writing agreements between the merger and the SPAC company. And as an investor, you really want to see that the underwriters are from reputable companies. Because the past underwriters for Mr. Klein's SPAC has been like JP Morgan, Citigroup, Goldman Sachs, this is actually a very good sign that the SPAC is actually legit. So, that was a deep dive into our players, which is Churchill Capital and Lucid Motors. Now, even though this may be boring, this is actually very important if you want to invest. You want to know where your money's going. So now that I've bored most of you all with the deep dives, I want to head on over to the trading charts now to see if there's a level or two to buy CCIV if we want to buy CCIV. So here we are in Churchill Capital Core's trading charts here, and as we can see, the past few days, we've been having massive volatility. I mean, these are 20% swings from lows to highs. So, this type of investing is definitely not for the faint of heart. The problem with this here is that we really only have 4 or 5 days of actual trading data. All of these other days don't really count. These are just like flat 10s. So all of our data will be based on just basically 4 or 5 days. And because of that, we can't really use the MACD and we can't really use the RSI. The reason for that is because this 12 and 26 number here, what the MACD is the moving average convergence divergence. So what we are looking at here is a short-term momentum, which is the average of the past 12 days, and the long-term momentum, which is the average of the past 26 days. However, because we only have like 5 days of actual data, that's not giving the MACD enough time to calculate enough data for us to have. So that's why we can't really use the MACD, and that's the same reason why we can't really use the RSI here. There's just not enough data. The RSI looks at the average of the past 14 days. So, we don't have 14 days of data. So that's why we can't really use the RSI here either. So, how are you going to pick levels here in Churchill Capital? And the way that I would do it if I wanted to invest in Churchill Capital is to look at these candles here. So let's look back at the trading charts, and we can see here that, the bottom of these 2 days, they really touched the $16 level here. And if I was an investor in Churchill Capital, or if I wanted to step in, this would be probably the first place where I would put my orders at, this $16 to $17 level here. Another level that I want to look at is around this $14, $15 level here, because as you can see, the top of this candle here and the bottom of this candle here, and that forms like a support level. But the main point I want to make is, again, it's only 4 or 5 trading days. There's not really a lot of data to go off of. So again, just to recap, around the $16, $17 level here is a good place to step in, I think. Or if it breaks this $16, $17 support, then it could come down to around this $13, $14, $15 level. So, all of these days were momentum driven of Churchill Capital here. There's actually 2 risks I see with Churchill Capital. The first one is that, obviously, if Lucid chooses not to choose Churchill Capital to go public with, that would have the stock crashing back down, maybe not to the 10 level, but like $12, $13, $14 level is what I see if Lucid chooses not to go with Churchill Capital. But the other potential downside risk here is if the SPAC takes too long to go public. So, I'll throw up a screenshot here from a quote from Harvard University about SPACs. And as you can see, it takes some time for a SPAC to come to fruition. It takes about 2 years. And Churchill Capital is not 2 years old. I'll put up a screenshot where we filed our S1 back in July of 2020. And time is not really what you want in a momentum-driven stock. Because if you give a momentum-driven stock time, then that length of time could basically let the air out of the balloon. which basically means that all the hype around CCIV relaxes, and so does the stock price. So, these are the two risks you have to consider before investing in CCIV. Not only do you have to have a good deal with Lucid Motors, but you also have to close it soon to keep the hype up. So that was my review on Churchill Capital stock and maybe Lucid Motors soon. Let me know what you thought about it in the comment section down below. If you have any questions or if you caught any mistakes, also drop me a comment down below. If you liked the video, please like the video. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. And as always, thanks for watching and I hope you have a great day.